Start ಮಾಡೋಣ. Good afternoon, friends. Today, as you are very much aware, we had one final viva of our PhD student for this examination. So we invited a scientist from Dharwad. So I think it is very much visible. She is Nagarathna Biradar. Currently, she is working as principal scientist and head Indian Grassland and Fodder Research Institute. So she studied MSc Agriculture Extension and PhD from Dharwad Agriculture University. Of course, she was my classmate in MSc AG. So for myself and Madam, same guide during that time. Dr. Sundar Swami, he was head of the department at Dharwad University. So of late, being extension scientist, she really worked meticulously, and she traveled almost more than 13 countries. She handled more than 20 research projects. Sometimes we oftenly used to talk, there is no scope in research, there is no much scope for visiting abroad, being in extension. So it is not so. Only thing how you are going to work is ultimately matters. So for that, Madam is the best example. And even during student days also, she was very studious, very, of course, hardworking. As a result, she could able to pass IRS examination, and she became scientist. Though she is in scientific field, even then she didn't lose academic interest. So she guided almost 3 PhD students and 13 MSc students. Those she is working in outside our university system. Of course, in research system she is working, but out of her own academic interest, she guided many students, participated in many seminars, workshops. So, of course, she is having wide interest in this area. Of course, she is good in research methodology also. So, I have given option to her only. So, topic of her interest, I don't know. It will be benefited to students. So, this talk will be only benefited to students. That's why I requested to address our students. She readily agreed. So, I welcome her on behalf of the Department of Agriculture Extension. Okay, madam, we can take over the session.
Good evening, good afternoon. Thank you, Raghu Prasad, for a very good introduction. Probably he told I was very studious and I did a meticulous job. But sometimes I feel students of this generation are facing more challenges than what we faced during our student days. We never had any distractions. Other than studies, nothing was there. Like even to go and have a tea, there was no option. So probably the situation could have forced me to be a bookworm. Yeah, thanks again for the good introduction. And he just made one statement that social science students have a very less opportunity to have a good exposure or to get a good job. I did had the same feeling when I was a student, but like as I progressed in my career, I felt that probably social scientist students have many diversified opportunities than the basic science students. That's what I ended up concluding after putting up 25 years of service in social science research. If I look at many of the career opportunities at the international level, definitely the agricultural extension scientists or extension professionals have many opportunities. I would like to quote some of the examples of my career here. Okay, ours is almost a third biggest research institute in the country when it comes to crop science. And our institute is having around 110 scientists from different backgrounds. We do have an animal scientist because this is the institute where we work on crops for the animals. Yeah? So this is the institute where crop scientists and animal scientists, they work together. And even we have an agricultural engineering division to design a specific equipments. What I want to say here is it's an institute with a scientist from different background. Yeah. So even in such a scenario, at international level, once in 4 years there is an international grassland congress that happens in different parts of the world. Many scientists in the institute, they submit their research papers and they get called for the poster presentation or for the oral presentation. But I would say that like almost I started attending that International Grassland Congress and then I became a senior scientist. And when I was first submitting my research paper, I was really skeptical whether I would get an opportunity to speak about my research work. But all the 4 international grassland congresses, I was invited as a oral speaker. So many couldn't get this opportunity. Many basic science people couldn't get this opportunity, especially at the international scenario. The social sciences has got a very good scope. But the thing is, like you need to equip yourself with the necessary knowledge dimension or with the necessary tools. And that is very important. And to equip yourself, now is the best time because you have a lot of learning resources. I would say that when I was studying, when I was preparing for the Agricultural Research Service exam, it was really very difficult task for me because I couldn't reach out to any student of IARI, and I was just not knowing like how to go ahead with the preparations. And sometimes I would discuss with some of the teachers that I need this particular journal. Like for example, there was a journal like Extension Digest, which used to have a very updated research papers about the recent happenings in the extension. Then they would tell that no, we have kept in the home. So I used to go personally to their home, search in their cupboards and get that and come and read it. That's how I prepared, especially for my interview, because I wanted not to miss this opportunity of getting selected. But now today's students, they don't need to go to that. I don't consider that was a difficult task, but still you have access for good resources. Having said this, coming to the topic, today I am not meeting the head of this division, but in his absence, I would like to respond and respect him, saying that I would have really wanted to interact with him, but probably I'll get an opportunity to do it some other time. Otherwise, the next in charge of this division, of this department, all the professors, all the student fraternity, a warm hello to all of you. I have been given an open option to speak about one of the topic, but I wanted that, I really wanted that instead of having a syllabus kind of topic, the MSc and PhD students invariably will have a task on conducting the research. So I thought it's better if I am able to share some of the tips, some of the observations, which can help them to conduct their research smoothly. That's the whole idea. I prepared this mainly by keeping the students in mind. However, I couldn't complete the presentation because of some other work schedules. I may end up abruptly and at the end, because I wanted to add some more few more slides, but time couldn't permit. I would be telling those things orally. The topic of the today's this one is enhancing quality of social research. I would focus more on how you can do the research more smartly. Yeah, you should not get confused with so many things. Like there are so much of information flood. Like which one I should read, what I should get it, how I can orient my research. So only few topics, only few tips I am going to share, and I'm sure you are not going to bore with it because I'm sharing it not from the books, but it's mainly based on the experience. So when it comes to the research, why it's not operating? Enter. Most of it. Left the right click button. It's not good. Okay. So when it comes to the research we basically do to generate the knowledge. And we can generate the knowledge on two ways. First one is by using the logical method. And second is by testing the evidence. Yeah. For generating for doing the research on logical aspects, what we use is usually the inductive method. Like we go from very specific to general. And when we think of inductive method, that really helps to come out with or build a theory, a new theory, if you want to talk about, if you want to really build a new theory in social science, then we have to use the inductive method, or we have to go for logical method of doing the research. But this requires a very thorough knowledge of psychology, because we are talking about building a theory on behavioral aspect. One need to be very good in psychological aspects. When it comes to testing the evidence, that means you are testing the already developed theory. The theory could be a deficient theory. If you want to test it, then we'll go for testing the evidence. When we do this, we usually go for three types of research. The first could be an exploratory, just inquiring about new area of new area. Yeah, we want to just explore what happens. If we want to do that, that's an exploratory type of research. The second type is descriptive. In the descriptive, we just document the observations. It's a descriptive. We just do the documentation of the observed phenomena. It's mainly documentation. We don't apply much of the mind. And mainly for MSc students, it's of this kind. Like we give a descriptive kind of research. Go and just see what's happening in the field, come out with some of the preliminary analysis. We don't go beyond a higher level of statistics. The third kind of research is explanatory research. We try to explain why this particular phenomena is happening and what are the factors are influencing about it. when we are looking at the intensity of the phenomena and what's the relationship between the factors, then we go for a explanatory kind of research. And this kind of the research usually we give it for the PhD students because it requires a higher level of statistical application. But we all agree that when we are conducting the research needs to be very systematic. We should do it step by step, and it should have a logical approach. We have to go in a logical manner. All of you have, most of you, especially those who are in a PhD, they have already completed one set of research during their master's program. So what we do is, we know that there is some research problem is there. Then that we convert it into a research question. We frame the objectives, we refer the past studies, then we develop the methodology, we execute the methodology, come out with the salient findings. So this is the one way of approaching the research. So we agree that there are different steps for conducting the research. We all are following these steps, but still how we can address each step in a more smarter way. That's what exactly I'm going to talk to you today. So these are some of the points I'm going to cover. The MSc students, how they should go for selection of the research problem, or first year PhD students, how they should go for the selection of the research problem. Whatever is given in the research book, I'm going off the way. So it's only based on my views I'm sharing. Whether it is right or wrong, it is left to your discretion. Yeah. Second thing is review of literature, how we should go as a student in a smart way. Then objectives versus hypothesis, when to frame the hypothesis, and then how to go for selection of the study area, how to design the data instrument and collection of the data, and finally data analysis. When it comes to the research problem, if you study any of the research books, then they say that you really need to work hard, read a lot, and then what is happening in the area, what interests you, you must pick up that as a research problem. But practically speaking, that idealistic situation doesn't exist in the real world. Because we all are doing research, because somewhere as a student you want that your research work should be recognized. Somewhere as a researcher, I feel that yes, my paper should be published in a good research journal and I should be recognized by my own fraternity. Yeah. Though I am interested in particular problem, but what happens is ultimately this is the what for we are working, right? Yeah, I want to have that my research paper should be published in a good research journal. Then I'll start looking for what exactly is happening in my discipline, either in the country or elsewhere. So one of the way of understanding what is happening in my discipline is to going through some of the works happening at the international level. Yeah, when I talk about the international level, we have a lot of CGIAR Institute. You name any crop, yeah, you name any kind of animal, there is a research institute under ICAR. And on the similar lines, you name anything, there is an institute under CGIAR system that works at an international level. So if you are interested to do work on a wheat, then just look into what is happening in CIMIT, yeah, under the social science. If you are interested to work on a rice, just look into what is happening at the IRRI, International Rice Institute. If you are looking at the livestock, look at the ILRI website. So what exactly these international people are focusing? Yeah, this really gives you a good edge. And if you work on those lines, which are of international importance, then getting the papers published becomes much easier. So you can go through what is happening at different institutes, and almost all their works is available in their websites. So please, as a student, go through what is happening at the international level and also look into what is happening at the national level, some of the national institute. When it comes to the national institute, I am not restricting only about the ICAR institute. Let us be very frank, in ICAR institutes, social science research is not very strong. Again, the reason is like a lot of the social science researchers are given a technology transfer job. It's not that they are not competent, but they have this responsibility of handling the technology transfer job. So mostly the research work gets affected, or they are not able to publish in line with the international scientists. So you can think beyond the ICAR Institute, maybe what is happening at good management institutes and what is happening at manage. Luckily, we have a manage which works exclusively on agricultural extension, and manage, because I did my PGDM program there, and that time it was headed by IAS, and luckily your own person now from the agricultural extension is heading that as a director general. They do have a good publication. Just go through what is they are focusing on. Same thing, some of the good management institute, NIAMI is there. And even at IIMs, what is happening, on what aspects they are focusing, that would give you a fair idea on which topic I must carry on my research. The third thing is also try to understand what your boss really wants. There are two things here. Why we should need to understand what your boss really wants is, the first thing is, he is the person who has attended meetings at a different levels. He knows what country needs at this time. So he may direct the students that, no, you better focus on this aspect. That is one thing. Second thing is, if you understand and go in line with your boss' interests, then what happens is, I'm sure you are going to get all the facilities. That is for sure. Yeah. See, I'll share my own experience. Somewhere in 2011 or 12, then my director came to my institute, my office, and then he told, why can't you start a work on hortipastural aspect? Because I work on the grasslands. Then I just gave a thought, and because I have to bring in social dimension to that component. And I told, sir, let me start with the 5 farmers. Then he told, yes, you start with the 5 farmers. Then I started with working with the 5 farmers. It's an action kind of research. Then he told that make it is an interdisciplinary, involve all the scientists. And after 2 months or 3 months, again, he asked me how the things are going on. Then I told, this is what is happening. All the facilities, whatever, you name anything, never it was denied for me. Yeah, never it was denied. Then after some days, he called, like it was 3 years of the project. I was just trying to know, I was just knowing social network analysis, because I wanted to know how the technology is getting spreaded within the village, outside the village, within the farmer area. Like initially, if he has put 2 acres of the land under hortipasture, how it is spreading at the end of 3rd year. All that I was analyzing. Then after 3rd year, he called, Nagarathna, why can't you start publishing one report on your study? If it wouldn't have been the topic of his interest, he would not have encouraged me. Then after completing the 3rd year, I told, sir, I think I want to add some more dimension to it. I want to continue as a 2nd phase of the project. He told, yes, you go ahead with that. And when I was doing that, then I told, then he again called me, why can't you send me one write-up immediately? I want to see that it should be published in the ICAR website. It's very difficult to get the things published in the ICAR website because we have 100 institutes. And I told, yes, sir, fine. I'm going to write and send it to you. Then I sent it, and he personally saw that it gets published in the ICAR website. Then when I was doing it, when I was carrying on this work, somewhere he wanted to meet the Director General of ICAR. Then he called me and told, I just want all your research studies in 3 slides. I want to show it to my Director General. Yes, I thought it's a great opportunity. And within no time, I prepared 3 beautiful slides without anywhere mentioning my name. Yeah. because name comes afterwards. Name, if we start focusing about having our own name, many of the extension scientists, they really don't know who is Nagarathna. Frankly speaking, because I really had the opportunity to interact with the extension scientists other than the IGFRI people. I never went there because my whole focus was on grassland congress, or we have a grassland seminars at national level. Then immediately I sent it, and now it is in the knowledge of the DG, and wherever he goes, no, like this work needs to be promoted. Even if he goes to Krida, he really relates it to climate change. Why can't you take up horticulture? Because IGFR has done this work and they want to promote it. So reading the mind of your boss really makes your life very easy when you are taking up the research. So this, you can keep it in the mind, and I'm sure in no textbooks these tips are given. I just thought I must share these things. But when it comes to the beginners, especially beginners, I felt those who are really interested in taking up a career in research. So you can just focus mainly on international area, and as you develop it, you can further broaden, but may not be possible for the student research. Yeah. So these are some of the tips for how to select a research problem. Coming to the review, like how you are going to do the past studies, there is so much of information flood. And my students, I have seen, I'll ask them to collect the reviews, and they collect so many reviews. But at the end of the day, if I take out from 50 studies, I can consider only 5 as relevant. So nearly 45 research papers, whatever they have collected, I feel they are wasting their time as well as the effort, which is really of concern, like how to make my own student to be more focused and collect the most relevant reviews. One of the way of doing it is, what I would suggest is, try to get one very good research paper which is relevant to your research topic. You have to search a lot for this. Once you got very good research paper, especially from a good journal, very high rated journal, because all these high rated journals, they give a lot of focus on references. They want that the research paper should have a lot of references, because the paper quality will improve, because they will use that research, they will refer that paper in the discussion part. So when you get one very good paper, one very good journal, you need not to go in search of the other journal. What you can do is just go through the back references. And then here I have given one journal here. This is the first page of the journal. And you can see the set of references mentioned here. Just keep on doing the back references one by one. And again, if out of the 50 back references, if you get 2 to 3 references which are related to your own subject of the study, again do the back reference. That will really save lot of your time and lot of your effort, and you can really spend a quality time in your research work. This is one of the best method when it comes to collection of the reviews. Keep it in mind, first paper should be very relevant and should be from a very good journal. Then only you will get a good quality reviews. So the back reference really helps. It really helps for the students. And when it comes to writing the reviews, how one must write the reviews? This is what we have been taught. This is what the university methodology is there, that every study, how we write our review of literature is basically we go by variable wise. Yeah, reviews, past studies are written variable wise. We don't write it objective wise. Yeah, so everything is independent. There is no connection from one study to another study. The first study speaks about income, so I'll put that under the income variable. So there is no continuity of the studies I'm quoting, because we are giving by variable. Though we have many studies, but if I write like this in my research paper, then the research paper is not accepted because we are not able to get connections between the studies. So even if you are writing a good research project, then even the expectation is this style of writing is never accepted. Yeah, you have to, because here our job is very mechanical. We are not able to gather information out of it, connect with the next study. We are not doing that. It's so mechanical. Somewhere the study is there, I'm copying it and pasting under one variable. That's it. The study and our job ends. But by doing this, or by collecting the past studies and writing like this, ultimately how it is contributing to my own study, we miss that bus. We really miss that bus. So the way of writing, though it is not, though this is what is being taught in the expected in your institute, please go ahead with that. But also be informed, be aware that the writing of the reviews must be like this. Yeah, they must be, it should be objective wise, or it should be as per the research questions what you have framed, and you have to link one study with the other study. For example, this particular study reported the findings like this. However, the another study which has taken up in another part of the country has reported like this. The reasons could be for these differences is like this. So that flow must come. That it's a very difficult task, I'm telling you, but you can write it only when you read the study and understand it and make a connection between your own past studies. This is very important. And once you understand the past studies and able to do it, then half of our research job is done. That is very important. So though you are not expected to do this, but I just wanted that this is what is expected for writing a good research paper or for writing a good research project. This is very important. It should be a more of intellectual work than the mechanical work. So these are the two tips I just wanted to share with the students. The first tip is when we are doing reviews, do it very smartly, be very focused, don't waste time, don't waste your effort. Try to get one good paper and keep on doing the back reference. And second thing is how to write a reviews. The third thing is objectives versus hypothesis. When should we focus on hypothesis, and when we can restrict ourselves only with the objectives. So objectives, we all know, yeah, there is again difference between activities and objectives, but for the student research, we are not going so much in depth. So when we come to objectives, we restrict ourselves with the objectives, but when it comes to hypothesis we need not to be scared of. Hypothesis is what I think before my research starts. That's it. What is my proposition about the research problem? That's what is hypothesis. For example, morning one student PhD thesis was entrepreneurship abilities of the agricultural graduates. So what he thinks, yeah, well, before conducting the study, what he thinks that agricultural graduates have got good entrepreneurship abilities or not. Among the agricultural graduates, who can have a better entrepreneurship abilities, like those who come from a rural background, from a farming occupation, like, so he can think about it and make the hypothesis. These are the propositions. Many of the researchers, we simply skip these statements. And good thing is, like, you have a one objective and you want to make the hypothesis. You can make more than one hypothesis for each objective. And because objective is little broader, because we combine 3 to 4 research activities and make one objective. So hypothesis, think about your own study, that's it. But it should be like you must able to test that hypothesis. Yeah, you are telling there is a difference, there is no difference, or there is a relationship. I feel that the students who are having a higher grade point are having more ability to become an entrepreneur. Yeah. So these are the what you think you have done in a tested form. If there is no hypothesis, then I told about the descriptive kind of research where we just describe or document the observed phenomena. That means we are not able to go into a higher level of statistics application. We restrict ourselves with the mean, mode, median, range, for that kind of basic statistics. If hypotheses are there, then we have to apply the higher level of this one. And having hypothesis makes the study more interesting, because initially only you have thought about all these influencing factors. What could influence more? What could some of the experimental studies, if you want to take up, then what happens is in experimental studies nowadays at international level, they don't straight away ask for the hypothesis. So even the objectives importance is going down when experimental kind of study when there is a hypothesis. Social science research has got lot of opportunities for experimental kind of studies. I did for my PhD, I did an experimental kind of study. And lot of things are there, but when we think of experimental, we have to nullify the effect of other factors. Like there are 5 farmers, and I have given one intervention to all the 5 farmers, but all those 5 farmers should have a similarity in terms of their income, similarity in terms of land holding, similarity in terms of their age. Then only I can study the influencing factor. That's what experiment means. But there are so many techniques in social science, many techniques in social research or in statistics, where we ourselves can create a synthetic control group. Yeah, we can create a synthetic control group and match it. So the recent agricultural economist who got the Nobel Prize, he worked on a random control trial. That also basically looks into forming one synthetic control and trying to influence the other variables. So we do have many of the such techniques. There is a difference approach. There is a propensity score matching. What they do here is, for example, propensity score matching or other techniques. What they do is they collect the data and select only those households who are similar in many important variables. They select only that part of the respondents and then do the further analysis. But when we are talking about the experimental kind of study, the most important thing is we need to have a good hypothesis. Coming to the selection of the study area, this slide I have included was based on my own experience of working with the student researcher. Invariably, what happens is, like, for example, if my student is working on livestock, then I will select those that area which has the highest livestock population. And my student is here, Veena is here. She knows that most of my student work is related with the livestock. I did this mistake. Initially, for first student, I don't know whether to take welcome because the highest population. Eventually, I understood I did a mistake because welcome is which is geographically biggest district. If it is biggest district with too many talukas and villages, automatically the number of livestock increases. That means I'm not selecting a representative sample. Yeah, so instead of doing that mistake, what I would suggest is if you are taking a work on rice, then see that highest paddy growing area, moderately paddy growing area, and least paddy growing area. Then only you will get the representation of the sample. Simply by going by only one variable with the highest thing, I don't think we are going to do the justification of the study. Yeah. So this principle applies even at selecting the farmers also. Like if I want to interview 100 farmers, you can think of selecting 25 farmers from a large holding, 25 farmers from a medium, 25 farmers from a small, and even 25 farmers from landless, because many people do have a leased land. Or when it comes to livestock, many people, they don't have a land, but still they rear the livestock. So that would help us to get the very good representative sample. That's the reason I have included this slide. And coming to the data instrument, we are doing all the interview schedule. And interview schedule preparation is, according to me, is a very toughest job. It's really difficult, at least for me. It's very crucial and very, very difficult. And most of the students I know, even my SRFs who are working, recently we did one interview schedule. I asked them to prepare and they came up. There is one thing what in the study what we are looking at is there is a set of drought prune technologies district-wise proposed by CREDA or NICRA, National Initiative on Climate Resilient Agriculture. We wanted to know these are the set of technologies recommended for different districts. Let us go and see what the farmer, whether they are aware of these technologies or not. And second aspect one part of the study is collect the IT case which are related with the drought proofing and then take the responses of the scientists. So these are the cross things. First, what scientists have told and what the farmers are doing, what farmers are doing, what scientists feel. So this is the whole frame of the study. Then I asked them, these are the things you have to include and prepare this one. Okay, some of the variables we have kept is innovative prudeness. That's the one variable, you think about it. Then they came up with the first set of the interview schedule. And innovative prudeness, there is no sentence. Questionnaire should have must come. Right? Number 4, innovative prudeness. And then what are the statements? See, that doesn't form because how it should be a questionnaire or interview schedule. If somebody else is taking it and collecting the data, then he should also understand what is your understanding. That's very important. So you should bring in lot of reiterations needs to be done, and you have to have a pre-testing. Pre-testing is must, not just once. Pre-testing is required twice, thrice to standardize it, because you will understand that once you do the pre-testing, you will understand what must be the flow of my questions in the questionnaire. For example, I'm asking farmers what is your land holding, how much under rainfed or irrigated, this one, and immediately I'll go for livestock. What's your herd size, how many this one, and then I'll come for what is your cropping pattern. When you are asking about the land holding, if you have the cropping pattern, then there is connectivity is there, then farmer need not to think in many dimensions. So then, okay, you are having 2 acres of rain-fed land. What you grow there? Then next. So this flow you will get it only when you pre-test it. So pre-testing at 2 stages at least will really help to standardize the interview schedule. Standardization of interview schedule is not for anyone else, only to make your work easier when you go for the data collection. So pre-testing is very, very important, and wherever possible, yes or no questions, like filter questions, what we can say. Do you have a milch animal? If he says no, then I can skip the further questions. So the filter questions you need, if you add it, then it makes the job easy. One more thing, what I just I recently what I experienced is In one of my projects, I was talking about collecting the IT case, or which are related to climate change, and giving that set to the those scientists who are working in that specific field. So we were discussing about how to go about it with the three scientists, because that project is handled in three centers. Then two of the principal investigators told that no, we will restrict only to this type of the question. For example, one ITK is there. I'm going and asking the scientists that how do you rate this IT case as scientifically rational or not? Give your scores from 1 to 5, 1 being no rational, 5 being highly rational. Those two were focusing on that. But I was telling to them, no, we need not to go like this, because we are approaching the scientists who are highly qualified. Just ask them, what percentage you agree that this particular ITK is scientifically rational? Then we get definitely, they will say, no, it is 75%. I agree that it is scientifically rational. Then afterwards we asked why it is so, like reasons were there. But when we get that 75%, then immediately that we have an absolute confidence. The data goes to the interval data, then the analysis becomes much easier. We tend to have a lot of data at ordinal level. When I am talking to farmers, when I go to the farmer, I can as well try to get the interval data as much as possible. For example, farmers can relate it with the 1 rupee, that equals to 100%. So how many paisa you agree? Yeah, then they will tell 75 paisa, I agree. 50 paisa, I agree. So that questions will become interval kind of the data, then I can go for the analysis. So these are the things like, so what type of data? I always try to get max as data. So that is considered as more scientific when you analyze and publish the research paper. So that is this one thing. And I have written read objective wise. That is only for the students. What I do for my student is, I saw some of my students ended up with getting confused. Which table should go under what objective? So what I tell my student is, flow of the question is important. But second thing is, when I am preparing their questionnaire, I will put the objectives. First objective, these are the set of the questions. I have done it for the Veena. Yeah. And she was doing it. It was because next job, they are very clear that this objective, these are the set of the questions. I am going to prepare the table or exercise. So this makes, like, objective wise, if we can prepare the questionnaire or interview schedule, is the word questionnaire, but appropriate word is interview. I would do this, like wise questionnaire. That really helps. But second tips I want, what I want to share and what I do with my students is, at the end we have a reference chapter. The student, after getting corrected all the chapters, they'll come with the references. That really makes the job of the major guide very difficult. So always I will emphasize my students that if you are writing the introduction, in one sheet you should come with the references. So I know that in the introduction they have used these are the references. In a similar way, even for the next chapter, by the time they are coming out with the sentence, their reference chapter is almost ready. They have to only rearrange the references. That will also help me to check whether the student have included all the references, and helps the students not to rush to get the missed references. Yeah? At the last stage, they won't be really in the mood to search for that references. So this is another thing I would do it. So objective wise questionnaire, definitely for all the students, and references, they must come along with this one. And nowadays students are like, they sometimes do expect that the guide should have the work. And if they have not included, I'll tell, don't worry, I'm going to search for you. Yeah. So that's only to build the trust between the student and teacher. It's not that, yeah, mainly it's to build ultimately in life, I believe that it's the human relationship that matters more than the work. I did to the many of my students. Yeah. Next thing is, when it's coming to the data collection, I'm not going to bore you, probably another 1 or 2 slides are there. So when it comes to the data collection, how you approach farmer really matters. It really matters. Some XYZ whom you don't know coming to and asking, what's your name? How do you feel? Do you feel like responding? And if you have gone very nice and everything and looks like an office, for sake of telling, you'll say something, but immediately our mind gets switched. We won't tell you. Yeah, this is very important because the first question in our interview schedule is name. So name, we are in so much of hurry to put. Otherwise, just you go and what kind of land you have? Is it fertile? Fill the first cropping pattern. Then you come back. He will be there. But how you farmer really matters. And you should be very good in studying the psychology of the who are very like respond, like they are responding, they are willing to respond, willing to share. Be a very good listener with them. Be a very good, what to say, ask them many questions. Why it is so? Wow, even the question which is not relevant for our study. Oh, is it? The other farmer was telling that he has got a very fertile land, black soil. How come you have? Then they get connected with all the generations. Then they start following up. I'm not telling you must do this with all the 200 farmers. Do it only with the 20 farmers and see how your research quality is going to improve. It really helps, especially when you start writing the discussion part. I see many of the students are very poor in writing the discussion parts. The similar findings were reported by so and so and so. Who is going to see what that person has reported? Nobody. But that doesn't bring you satisfaction. Listen to the farmers. Some 20 farmers, definitely out of 200 farmers, you will get some good 20 farmers. Any 20 good respondents. Listen to them very carefully. Ask many questions. Spend good amount of time. On the contrary, you have a set of farmers who are highly non-cooperative, very non-cooperative. How to deal with them? Don't worry at all, because you need them only to complete your sample size. Whatever they tell you, only fill up. Come out with a blank data. There are a lot of methods to fill the missing data. There are a lot of methods to fill the missing data. So go statistically, fill the missing data and go for the analysis. And don't think that only it happens in the social science. It does happen with all other science, I'm telling you. They are very good in taking the observations of only one experiment. They need to repeat it 3 times. Yeah. Second and third, they do this mistake. They also don't get the required facilities. They also will not be able to get the good data set, but they go with some good statistical approaches. So these are the things which you need to master, and be patient with the farmers, and most important, respect them. We are here just because of them. We are students because of them. We are professors because of them. So we need to carry a lot of respect in our heart. That's very important. Especially when I address the farmers at the end, definitely I respect them a lot, because ultimately I just want to boost their self-respect. That is very important. So when you are approaching the farmers, give a due respect. How much bad home they have, or how much what soil clothes they are wearing, that doesn't matter. It's ultimately their experience. Agriculture, it is called as a culture because this agricultural science cannot be taught only in one generation. It has to be passed on from one generation to another generation to another generation. Within 4 years, what you have learned, you may be having a good education, but they are more experienced and knowledgeable than you. That we need to acknowledge. So be very, very compassionate with them. respect them, and then you will get a good data. And that redundancy, like first one day, 2 days, and third day you feel, oh, I'm getting the same kind of data. That feeling is there. So okay, it is there in all the research programs. That redundancy will set in, but you need not worry about it. That's a part of the research projects. Coming to the sample size depends like what kind of if you are going for a explanatory kind of research, then you need to have good sample size. Otherwise, descriptive statistics, it's okay with the 100 and 200 sample, but it all depends upon this one. So missing no or missing response, you need not worry much, because at least as a behavioral science student, we must understand that the forms of different kinds are there, and our duty is to tackle them. Yeah, it's our duty. We are trained to handle the forms of the different behavioral patterns. Coming to the spreadsheet preparation, like you are seeing this spreadsheet preparation, and you can see that the variables are placed under 3 to 4 rows. Okay, each row is in a different kind of color. Are you able to see this? Yeah, I'm not saying that this is bad way of doing it, but if you enter the data, each variable heading spreading in a 2 to 3 rows, then transferring the data for other software becomes a really difficult task. If you want to transfer this kind of sheet to SPSS, then again it's a difficult task. So the lesson here is, whatever the spreadsheet you are using it, preparing it, only on first row, all the variables should fit in. That's what you have to do it. Only thing what it requires is you have to code the variables. For example, you have a land holding. You have different types: land holding rainfed, land holding irrigated, land holding under perennial crops. Then you can code it as a land holding rainfed, R. LHI, then that means land holding irrigated. Then land holding perennial. So all the information are fitting in, but all are in a single row. And to remember that, you can just include a box there. It's not there in that. So if you can go and insert a comment box, there you can completely write it. LHR means land holding rainfed. So keep this, like you can see that all the variables are in the single row. Are you able to see this? It's too small. Then this spreadsheet, this data set, you can transfer it to any other software and do the analysis. This really becomes very helpful. Like this is a spreadsheet I think I prepared some 12 years ago, where we were working on what extent the livestock is contributing towards the livelihood of a household. So like we had that Pentagon analysis. All of you may be aware about a DFID livelihood analysis framework, that human capital, social capital. So while preparing the questionnaire itself, I did that. These are the variables questions comes under human capital. So I included this also, like HC. HC means human capital. And in the human capital, I have this education. In the human capital, I have a family size. So that's what we could code it and insert a comment box. So even after some years, if I want to go and use the data set, that becomes very easy. So this spreadsheet preparation I have included because many of the students, when they ask them to prepare, they'll spread it into 3-4 rows. That really makes the difficult task when we want to go ahead. Coming to the data analysis, be informed that 10% of the missing data is always allowed for any of the statistical analysis. For example, land holding variable is there. 10% of the farmers are not responding or not giving that data, you can fill it. There are many ways, but whatever the way you use it, you must have a logic to it. Understand that. You must have, for example, you can take a mean of the whole set and then put it. Or you just study your data, whether I can take a mode value, just fill it. Otherwise, there are automatically, so for example, imputation methods are there. Imputation methods are nothing but it distributes and it says this 25% of the data is in this range. This 25% of the data is in this range. So you take the some data which is in the middle. Or one more way is put it in the before cell, after cell, and you just take the mean of upper and lower and take this. So there are different methods, but you should have one systematic method to fill the data. That you must understand. Second thing is you have to recognize the outlier in your data, especially when we are working on annual income. Some households have an annual income of just 50,000, and somebody says it's a 5 lakh. When we take the average, then the average will go very high. So such kind of data will give a very bad result. So you have to take out the outliers. Like who is telling a very high level or who is telling a very low level. Just you have to modify that data and take the average. So there are so many statistical methods available to remove the outlier or identify the outlier. Then when it comes to identifying the relation between more than two variables, I'm telling you, if you want to be a very good social researcher, then you must know good statistics softwares and good statistical methods. And knowing a good statistic, you need not to know all the 10 methods. You need not to know all the 10 methods. Only 2 to 3, which are very relevant, but which are which can give you a very good research findings. If you are master in that, then you can as well take the help of someone else to learn or to apply the other statistics. So when we are measuring the interdependence of the variables, for all the research, there need not be a dependent variable and independent variable. First thing you need to understand. Yeah, need not to be. But when there are a set of variables, but I want to see the interdependence, there are methods like factor analysis, principal component analysis, cluster analysis. These principal component analysis are all very beautiful techniques. Like, for example, a particular farmer is performing best. That's what or one student is highly entrepreneurial. So what factors are influencing? What set of factors? Out of 10 variables, if you take up the principal component analysis, it says these 4 factors are very important, which are contributing up to 85% for his entrepreneurial behavior. Then you can focus on only those 4 variables. So the principal component means it takes out the principal variables that explains the behavior of a particular person. So these all are based on the correlation and regression. So anyway, we have studied. So you need to understand all these things. Even cluster analysis helps to group the farmers to different. Like, for example, if you are planning to develop a typology, then how you want to typify a good group of dairy farmers. This type of dairy farmers are having a high management skills of animal line fodder. This group of the farmers means what variables are influencing if you want to cluster them. So these are the interdependence of the variables where we don't have a dependent and independent variables. But when we want to measure the dependence and the influence of the dependent and the independent variables, then we have methods like structural equation modeling and simultaneous equation modeling. These are the things I just thought I must continue, or at least show one method where I did the impact of our technologies of our institute by using economic surplus approach. Economic surplus approach, though it looks like an economics, this one, but that will give you an estimation based on the adoption rate. It doesn't take into economics as such. But how you can learn about all these things is a lot of videos are there. There are some of the very excellent scientists who are good in some of these statistics, like, for example, structural equation modeling during COVID period. One principal scientist from Trivandrum, he's extremely good extension scientist. A lot to learn from him. He did postdoc in psychology from US and good in many of the aspects. he did one online training program for only for the PhD students, and I could see a lot of the PhD students getting registered into it. And at the end of the 3 days, they're very comfortable handling all these things. These are very important if you want to have research publications of good NAS-rated journals. Having 4 research papers which are not in a good rated journal, or having 1 research paper in a very good rated journal will make a lot of differences eventually, because your citation index will keep increasing. That's very important. I think I'm done with it, with some of the tips. Yeah, I'm done with it, but I would share that as a student, for example, I was asked to take up the impact analysis of my own institute technologies of the last 10 years. Like, what is their economic value at the end of the 10 years? Because now impact analysis is being emphasized by ICAR for all the institutes, including agricultural universities. Yeah, what is the impact? What's happening? So when I was asked to do it, then I just studied some of the methods, and I thought that let me go with the economic surplus approach. But how I did it is, there is one book written by the scientist of quantitative methods in social science research. It's available in IAS, no, not in IASRI website. Soft copy is available in IASRI website, and very beautifully written book on different methods available. Yeah, even structural equation modeling is there, propensity score matching, difference in difference approach, RCT. The student from this own university, he's an economist in IIRI. Dr. Aditya is too good in some of these techniques. He's very good in these techniques. So these are the authors who have contributed chapters for that book. That's very good. But I used that book, and eventually I consulted IISRA scientists, and they're very cooperative. They're so cooperative, especially for the student fraternity. So you can just always consider to contact them. Extremely good, especially with the NCAP, NCAP Institute, that is on agricultural economics policy. Yeah, so in Delhi, if you are able to go 1 or 2 days, stay there and learn it, that will really give you an edge. And social research, career in the social research, you should not think that it's only for the ICAR. No, social research has got a lot of scope in even private field. Dr. Suleiman, have you heard about his name? Dr. Suleiman, he was a ARS scientist, quite senior to me. He just left the job and started his own firm in Hyderabad. What he does, what his organization does is it takes up the evaluation studies. Yeah, so it's mostly the research components, and this evaluation studies, all these evaluation studies, he does it for most of the international organizations. So he quit the ARS job just after joining 3 years, and then started this. He writes one agricultural extension blog. Many people write to that blog. So that also gives a lot of information. So okay, anyway, I'm not going to be in the research. I need not to have this edge. You need not to feel that. Lot of, especially marketing research organizations and all, they look forward to have this expertise of conducting the social research. So with this, I think I have taken a lot of your time, but I must appreciate that you all were very patient in listening to me. And thank you so much, especially to Dr. Raghu Prasad for giving me this opportunity and being with you all and share my experiences. And I also thank all the teachers of this department for considering my visit and giving again an opportunity to interact with you all. And thanks to the student friends for being so patient and listening to my lecture.
One or two questions.
Yeah, any questions if you want to ask, because
Quickly, 1 or 2 minutes.
yeah, I'm giving my email ID also, and any questions I'm ready to take, please. exploratory, like we really don't go into a systematic method, like it will be shorter of 6 months or like a pilot kind of study. For example, one new variety has been developed. Okay, you just want to see how the farmers are going to accept it before putting it into a seed chain or before you want to spread it further. So then you'll just try to explore how it behaves with the farmers. Yeah, so see, this is a good question and very difficult to answer, because I will tell you what percentage of the total population you want to take. But how you are going to define the total population, it's a very difficult task. If you look into some of the social science paper of medical field, the medical field, the social science papers are really good when it comes to the statistics. They literally define the sample size. They have they apply some of the statistics because they know that what percentage of the population is affected with the TB. So they have a defined population size. Then what percentage I have to take, that is defined. But in our case, we don't have that kind of the information. I really don't know still how many farmers in my country are growing fodder crops. I don't have that data. So in such cases, the only way out is go with your objective. And if your objective requires a very high order statistical analysis, try to have a large sample size. I would personally prefer that if there is a large sample size, I'll keep my questionnaire very simple as possible. There is no meaning in doing donkey work by contacting 400 farmers, yeah, or contacting 200 farmers and collecting the information of a questionnaire of 10 pages. And ultimately, you are not going to use many of the information. So keep it simple. Approach a lot of the farmers. That will really reduce the error. Yeah, there is no system. There is no defined way unless and until we know about the population size. So many people do ask this question even to me, means my own colleagues from other discipline, and we will be presenting our projects. So it's difficult unless and until we know. So, but if your objective requires high order statistics, go for a bigger sample size and keep the questionnaire very simple. Interview schedule must be very simple. Yeah, there is no meaning. I see that lot of information is collected at the end of the day, even 30% is not used. And most of the international papers, if you see that, their sample size is also small, and even their questionnaire variables, the information they collect is also small, but they use a very systematic statistical analysis. That will give them an edge to publish in the international paper. And that's why I'm emphasizing do a very smart work when you are planning for a research. Any other questions? Yes, sir, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today afternoon, after a good lunch, and also we had a wonderful session. Even though instead of the good lunch, we had a wonderful session that didn't distract us. We were very much focused. All of us very much attended this, and I thank our madam who has very elaborately and every point is an pertinent one and practically thing. So most of the content, say we could have either undergone in the one of the two courses, that is research methodology as well as in the technical writing part. We have undergone that, but many times we will not have this much interesting because she has touched upon the topic with a realistic example, her own examples that matters a lot. And she has rightly pointed out, starting from the selection of the lead reference or a study that can serve you or take you to the right direction. So that identification of that, many tips she has given and given clarity about the difference, clarity between the hypothesis and objective, and also pre-testing and flow, and how it matters in the research. Because if you go in a hurry, as she told, you'll be finishing the task, but after when you are tableting, you'll be feeling all the heat. So that also she rightly mentioned out. And chapter-wise reference, that is another good idea we need to follow. So that you will not end up, and simply you'll be getting every now and then that as a comment in our external comments. So that should not happen. That she had rightly, we very much accept it, madam. And then the question sequence and the cordial relationship building with the farmers. So all wonderful tips she had given, and also some of the queries, very pertinent queries for that also she had nicely answered. And so all these things indicates that we had a vivid session today. So I thank you, madam. I thank Dr. Nagarathna, brother, the principal scientist from the ICAR Fodder Research Institute, Dharwad, profusely for having shared a wonderful session with us. Thank you very much, madam. We look forward to have another occasion to meet you again, if possible, with some other wonderful topic. Thank you very much, madam. Once again. Yeah, sorry, because of two occasions, our seminars today got delayed a bit. So now we will move to the seminar session. So I request that today's presenters start presentation on them. Chandan, Gowda, you share the main screen itself. Sometimes you will share some other screen. You stop share. Go to the stop share and share the full screen. And go to share screen. That main screen, Left one, share.
ಸರ್ ಅದು ಲೈಕ್ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾರಾದರೂ ಒಬ್ರು ಮಾಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಸರ್, ಅದು ಭರತ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಅದೇ ಟಾಪಿಕ್, ಸೇಮ್ ಕೋಇನ್ಸಿಡೆಂಟ್. Almost she is also including that overlapping things.
They asked you to discuss. So we wanted to give a clarity what portion will be coming, what portion will be coming.
ಸರ್ ಅವತ್ತು ಸರ್ ಒಂದು ಕೋವಿಡ್ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್, ಅನದರ್ ಒನ್ ಸಾಯಿಲ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್, ಸಾಯಿಲ್ ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಕಾರ್ಡ್.
We have proposed the 3 topics. So one is on the COVID, reflections on the role of extension in the context of COVID-19. The second topic is presented on overview of soil health card scheme. And the third one is institutional innovations and its impact on farmers' income.
Sir.
Very clear.
Yes, sir.
You go ahead with COVID-19.
ಸರ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವತ್ತು ಆ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇಮ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ವಾಟ್ ಲಾಕ್ ಡೌನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಷನ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟೀಸ್, ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಅದನ್ನ ಫೋಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಾಗಿದ್ದ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಬೇಡ. ಫೈನಲೈಸ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್. ಇದನ್ನ HOD ಸರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಗಣೇಶ್ ಮೂರ್ತಿ ಸರ್ಗೆ ಇದನ್ನ ಟಾಪಿಕ್, ಬಟ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಇದನ್ನ.
already discussed model.
Just a problem.
You have to verify. Actually, I thought from the 3 topics only they will be choosing based upon the comments. Because everything is recorded. It's not like any impact. Even right now is whatever we are speaking, that is also getting recorded. You can't go and hide or you can't safeguard it from anyone. I don't know why you take this type of things. I thought the purpose of giving the form is to finally give which among the 3 based upon the discussion. Without anything, it could have come and discussed. Even without changing the topic of this, it was proposed. We thought that everyone will be putting out 3 only. Based upon the discussion output only, we have proposed the topic that we believe and straight away made the notification. So now we have to check each and everything we have to check out. And I discussed with HOD also. He has told he has not discussed with me anything.
What's the topic or inform?
Inform ಮಾಡೋದು discuss ಮಾಡೋದು. Inform ಮಾಡೋದು
ಸರ್ HOD ಹತ್ರ ಸರಿ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಗಣೇಶ್ ಮೂರ್ತಿ ಸರ್ಗೆ
ಈಗ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ HOD ಏನಾದ್ರು ನನಗೆ ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ
ಸರ್ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ ಸರ್.
ಅಲ್ಲ ನಾನು ಹೇಳೋದು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ? will allow you to project. But if you say no, then you have to change your topic. Again you have to project.
Okay.
This is others also. Initial practical change ಮಾಡಿ
what is the next stage of conducting the session? Straight away you could have given the option to you.
At least our regular teacher ಹತ್ರ discuss ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅದಲ್ಲ.
So with whose direction or this seminar is constituted? Earlier seminar we have discussed and even when we go through the synopsis, then we endorse, okay, go ahead like that, we give that. And you have come out with this topic, and what is the guarantee that it is following on things or it will meet the minimum standards?
ನೀವೇನ್ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀರಾ ಮರ್ಸಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು ನೋಡೋಣ ನಾನು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಚಾನ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕೋಣ.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಅದು ಗುರು ಮೇಲ್ ಸಹ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದೆ ಸರ್ ಈ ಟಾಪಿಕ್.
ಇವನ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನಾಗಿರ್ತವೆ ನಮಗೆ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಮಾಡಿ ನೋಡೋಣ ನಾಳೆ ಜೋಡಿ ಬರೋಣ ಆಯ್ತು.
Good afternoon to respected professors and my dear friends. The topic for seminar is multidimensional scaling, its application in extension. This multidimensional scaling is a statistical method with lot of theoretical background in it. Let's focus on its application part in extension with some of the examples. At present, we are standing at a knowledge era, and this knowledge is dynamic in nature. This leads to this information and knowledge and application leads to empowerment. The main question in front of us is how to manage this vast information to provide the right information to the right person at right time. So now the question is how to give holistic representation of maximum information in shortest way. For this, let us take an example of rural leadership. It is a multidimensional variable, so it is difficult to measure with a single scale. So if we collect the number of indicators from experts, then if we collect it from 15 to 20 experts, then it will be around 100 to 200 indicators. Again, if we use that to collect the responses from the respondents, then there will be a huge data. So it will be practically infeasible to deal with that data. So is there any systematic way to convert this voluminous data into interpretable information? Yes, there are some common dimensions. They are overlapping in all these indicators. The idea here is to grouping this data based on the similarities and dissimilarities. For this, we call it as data reduction. So we have to extract small number of major dimensions from large amount of data available. This can be done by the technical multidimensional analysis. With this background, I have framed the objectives for the seminar. One is to understand the concept of multidimensional scaling, to study the application of multidimensional scaling, and to review the relevant research studies. So coming to multidimensional scaling, it is an exploratory data analysis technique in the family of multidimensional analysis. We can also call it as principal coordinate analysis. Here, it is mainly used to represent the proximity data, that is distance data in the multidimensional space, that we can call it as a spatial distance model. Next, here we use the space that called as Euclidean space. The proximity data can be obtained by one is similarity judgments, that is we ask for the subjects or respondents to judge based on the similarities, and we can get the data through confusion matrix, grouping the data at same different errors, etc. So the definition for multidimensional scaling is it represents the stimuli as points in the multidimensional space in such a way that the corresponding stimuli, that is similar stimuli, located close together, and those points corresponding to dissimilar stimuli, they are located apart. Like which are the similar objects, they will locate close together in the multidimensional space. It is a classical approach which helps to finding the underlying dimensions that will help the subjects to evaluate the objects or stimuli. So here the two identified dimensions are, one is information behavior, another one is social participation. Here these are the characteristics of the leadership, that is we can take it as rural leadership, that is falling in the multidimensional space. Here we can see decision making and social progressiveness are in close proximity. That this is just an example for how the data are arranged in the multidimensional space. Like this, many more number of characteristics are distributed under the more number of dimensions. Coming to origin, it has origin in the psychometrics, that is field of psychological measurement. Here we used to measure the abilities, knowledge, or attitude. It is mainly focuses on the measurement of the individual differences, and it is used for the scale construction and reduction of the dimensions. And it underwent the major burst in the, for the development of the non-metric revolution. Non-metric revolution, here we deal with the ordinal data. Originally, it is designed for the to analysis of the similarities and dissimilarities. Which of the objects or which of the stimuli are similarities? To know that, we are using this method. It can deal with the wide range of other types of data, that is rectangular matrix, pairwise comparison, sortings, etc. Here, how this multidimensional scaling differs from the other multivariate methods. First, it is distribution free. That is, here it is non-parametric test. Here we can deal with the qualitative data, and it makes conservative non-metric. Non-metric means it provides the visual structure of the data, that is deals with the ordinal data, and we can collect the data from wide varieties. That is, one is direct data, that is deal with the wide varieties of data. One is direct data, derived data. Direct data can be obtained by pairwise rankings, ratings, or rankings, etc. And derived data can be obtained from co-occurrence matrix, aggregated data, and measures of association or correlation. And it is used for the range of transformation. One is monotonic transformation, that is here we deal with the ordinal data, positive or linear or metric, here deals with the interval data, and also log interval. The major assumptions here we used in the multidimensional scaling are there will be presence of the common characteristics between the objects or stimuli that we used to evaluate. Second one is that the common characteristics that may be objective or perceived. The main assumption is here is the stimuli can be described by some values along with the set of dimensions in the multidimensional space in such a way that the similarity between the objects or stimuli is inversely proportional. That is, if the similarity is more, then the distance is less in the multidimensional space. So the vital is that objects should be comparable. The second question arises, how many objects we have to choose? For that, we have for stable multidimensional solution, we have to take 4 times as many as subjects as dimensions required. Multidimensional scaling can help to determine what dimensions that the subjects use to evaluate the objects. And second one, how many dimensions they use in a particular situation. Next, the relative importance of one dimension over the other. Next is how these objects are perceptually related to one another. The most appropriate, it is most appropriate for the achieving 2 objectives. One is, it is a exploratory data analysis technique to identify the unrecognized behavior. Second one, unrecognized dimension that affects the behavior. Second one, as a means of obtaining the comparative evaluation when the basis for comparison is not known. This scaling requires several tenets, that is assumptions about the perception. That includes each respondent will not perceive the stimuli to have same dimension. Second one, if they perceive the stimuli to have, subjects perceive to have the same dimension also, they need not attach the same level of importance to all the objects. Third one, the judgments either based on the dimensionality or based on the level of importance, they need not be stable over a period of time. That will change over a period. So the vital here is, one is comparability and representativeness of the objects. To proceed with multidimensional scaling, we have to get familiar with the similarity data and preference data. In case of similarity data, here the researcher trying to identify which of the items are more similar and which of the items are dissimilar. Next, the most widely used method here is to we simply ask the respondents to rank or rate the similarity of all the pairs of objects. In case of preference data, the respondents assume good or bad judgments. That is, different combination of the perceived attributes which are more highly valued than the other. The data for multidimensional scaling analysis is proximity data. Here, the overall similarity or dissimilarity objects, it will indicate the overall similarity or dissimilarity, and the program, it looks for the spatial configuration. Here, the data is arranged in the proximity matrix. That is a square matrix. The data can be obtained by 2 methods. One is direct method, another one is the indirect method. In case of direct method, we ask the respondents to give the values, numerical values, for getting the response on the similarity or dissimilarity of the objects. Second one is indirect method. Here, the data obtained by the data is called confusion data. Here, the researcher records how often the respondents confuses one object for the another. So, objects that are rarely confused, if the objects are not confused, it will get the high dissimilarity value. So, the objects are compared with measured using the different measurement scales, and these are correlated with each other, then we will get the correlation coefficient matrix. This is the formula to calculate the Euclidean distance in the multidimensional space. For example, here we ask the 3 subjects to rank the 3 objects from 1 to 7. This is the data, and with the help of this formula, we calculate the Euclidean distance. And this Euclidean distance, these values are transferred to the proximity matrix. Stelfry, he is the earliest marketing researcher. He used this multidimensional scaling as a graphical device to present the consumer perception and brand similarities. For that, he called it as Tinker Toys. Then, Borg von Gronen, he provided the thorough introduction to this multidimensional scaling concept. Next, an easy-to-read, application-oriented overview of multidimensional scaling is given by Hare, Anderson, Tatham, and Black. This is a book. This consists of various multivariate analysis techniques with the economics points of view. And last one, individual difference scaling. It was popularized by Cox and Cox in 1994. This is the procedure for multidimensional scaling. First, we have to formulate the problem. Which of the dimensions, which of the objects or variables we need to compare, and how many variables or dimensions, and we should know what is our purpose of the study. Then again, next step is to obtain the input data. Here the input data can be obtained through, one is similarity judgments, or second one is that is we ask the respondents to rank the similarity or dissimilarity. Second one preference, that is which one is more preferable than another, and third one with the help of Likert type scale. Then run the appropriate statistical software. Here we have to decide the number of dimensions with the help of stress. That is, one technique is there with the help of straight plot technique. We have to decide this number of dimensions. Then it will map the results and define the dimensions. The statistical program, it will give the map, that is we call it as perceptual map, and it plots the various products or objects which we want to compare in a multidimensional space. And we have to test for reliability and validity. Then again, at last we have to report the results. Let us take an example for better understanding. Here, developing multidimensional scale for effective measurement of rural leadership. It is done by Mohanty et al. In 2009. Here we took rural leadership. It is a multidimensional variable. Here, under this, many number of subdimensions are overlapping under this variable. It leads to the problem of multicollinearity. So he developed the scale by using the method called MKJBD. Maheshwari, Kumar, Jamtani, Bhaskaran, and Dandapani developed a method to construct a scale that is multidimensional scale. He used that method. He collected the data from 160 follets and 40 leaders from the Uttarakhand area, and he tested that for the reliability. These are the 15 subdimensions which are overlapping in the for rural leadership, and these are the unidimensional scale to measure these particular indicators or subdimensions. Next, intercorrelation has been done among the various for different pair of the subdimension. It results significant correlation among many number of the dimensions. So again, factor analysis was applied by choosing the principal component analysis. Here, the thumb rule is which of the dimensions or subdimensions the value comes less than 0.06, we have to eliminate those dimensions. But here, all the commonality values are above 0.6. So all the dimensions are retained. So we got to know the dimensions. Again, we need to see how many exact number of dimensions we have to keep for the final test. Here, one technique is that this is a screen plot technique. Here, we have to plot the dimensions against the stress. The main objective here is to obtain the best fit with smallest number of dimensions. Here, after the 5 number of dimensions, the graph becomes horizontal. So here the thing is we have to take 5 dimensions. Then this is the final factor analysis model. And these are the 5 main dimensions. These are the underlying dimensions. These dimensions assigned under different components are major dimensions by rotated component matrix that is obtained through principal component analysis. It will give the beta values, which of these dimensions which are higher beta values for the particular component or particular major dimension, it will assign under that component. So finally, the reliability score has been obtained by using the Cronbach alpha method. It is 0.87. It denotes that scale is more accurate and the error in measurement is less. While 61.4% of the change could be explained by using the multidimensional scale, while only 50.5% of the change explained when using unidimensional scale to measure the rural leadership. This 11% attributed to the overlapping effect when measured using the unidimensional scale. These are the different types of multidimensional scaling. One is classical multidimensional scaling, metric multidimensional scaling, non-metric, and generalized. Coming to classical multidimensional scaling, here the last function is called shrine, and here it takes the input matrix and gives the coordinate matrix. Here it uses to find the dissimilarities between the data. And second one, metric multidimensional scaling. Here the last function we call it as stress. The stress can be reduced by using the technology called stress measurization. That is the optimization strategy here we use. Third one is non-metric multidimensional scaling. Here we use this for the monotonic transformation technique. That is monotonic transformation of the dissimilarity between the objects and proximities of the objects. And last one is here it deals with the ordinal data, and metric multidimensional scaling deals comfortably with the interval data. Last one is generalized multidimensional scaling. It is just an extension of the metric multidimensional scaling. Here we take one is actual space, another one is the arbitrary space. Coming to non-metric multidimensional scaling, because it has it has various use in our extension research, because it deals comfortably with the ordinal data. For exploring this multidimensional scaling, for exploiting the perceptual space of human objects, Shepard and Kruskal developed this method in 1962. In non-metric multidimensional scaling, it deals with ordinal information, and monotonic transformation is possible using the formula stress. P is the vector proximities, and F of P, it is the monotonic transformation of that vector proximities. We take one example, quality perception using multidimensional scaling by Christian Smith. He used it for the measurement of the air quality perception. That here I have simulated the data to show to our area. Here these are the 12 farm journals or magazines. We select they selected 77 subjects, 12 farm magazines. Here they asked to compare these 12 magazines pairwise. So to ask to rate this dissimilarity, that is 1 is very similar and 9 is very dissimilar. This is the perception of they obtained by comparing this data. This is for the individual. Here we can know which of the journals are more similar in the multidimensional space. Based on the responses, it will plot the result like this. For example, here Indian Journal and Adhikar Patrike, it is almost same. It will denote the data like this. For getting the aggregate analysis of all the 77 respondents, mean aggregate scores has been calculated. Again, here we apply non-metric multidimensional scaling with Euclidean distance. That is to calculate the distance between the two objects. Next is individual difference scaling. In individual difference scaling, it will plot both the stimuli and also individual differences in same multidimensional space. Here, the main assumption is all the respondents use the same dimension to evaluate the objects. Next, different group of subjects can be detected. This can be detected with the help of calculating the individual weights and plotting them in the graph. Next is individual proximity matrix of all subjects. It is an input for calculating the individual difference scaling. Here, the tight clustering, it represents the homogeneity of the subjects. And here, subjects like 31, 29, 53, and 22, they are regarded as a separate group. This will help in our extension to identify the target audience, and we have to formulate the specific strategies for them. These are some of the applications of multidimensional scaling in management information system, database management, market segmentation to identify the needs for the particular segment of the consumers, better visualization of the data because it provides the data in the dimensional space, advertisement effectiveness, which of the brand is effective when compared to another in psychology, psychometrics. The two important applications of this multidimensional scaling is positioning and perceptual mapping. Coming to positioning, it is a marketing strategy that aims to make a brand to occupy a specific distant position compared to other brands in the minds of a customer. Whether my brand is in which position according to a customer, it will help to find out that one. Typically, the position of any product or product line or a brand. This is the multidimensional scaling as tool for identifying the positioning. Case study done by the Ranjit and Swati Kulkarni. They selected 50 respondents and paired comparison ranking scale has been used. Here, the data is simulated to compare the 11 brands of pesticides to know the positions of their different brands. Here, the respondents are asked to rank from 1 to 5. this is similar, and 5 represent very dissimilar. This is the dissimilarity matrix. Here, A, B, C, D, E up to K, this represents the different brands of the pesticides, and these are the responses given by the subjects. Then after analyzing the data, it will map the result like this. According to the, if we take in the x-axis quality and in y-axis if we take price, then according to the consumers, the brands K, C, F and almost similar because they are located close together in the multidimensional space. And here we can note that K, C, F are in high quality and high price. Like that, B and D, they are of less quality, and G and F, they are of less price. Here we can identify the area where less brands of pesticides are there. Here the marketing strategy is to introduce our new brand in that space. Here we can introduce with a less price and less quality. Next, coming to perceptual mapping. Perceptual mapping, here the researcher used this method. It is a diagrammatic method used by the researcher mainly to visualize, to give the visual representation of the perception of the clients or subjects. The main strength of this method is ability to infer the dimension without the need of defined attributes. And here we provide the dependent variable, that is similarity between the objects, and we ask for the respondents to figure out what dependent variable might be. That is what independent variable might be. That is to get the perceived dimensions. Here the main thing of the multidimensional scaling is to transfer the respondents' judgments into the distance or proximities in the multidimensional space. It requires minimum 2 dimensions because it is difficult to represent the perception of the people in single dimension. And finally, it will provide the visual representation of pattern of proximities where different position of the objects can be detected. This is a case study that is for application of multidimensional scaling in psychometrics. These are the different facial expressions that denotes the emotion, and these are presented to the 20 respondents and asked them to what it actually represents. Here the idea is to on which the particular dimension they will evaluate. By analyzing these results, 5 underlying dimensions has been found out. Here these dimensions are happiness, alertness, anger, vaping and sleeping. So on what basis they identify these dimensions? Here the dimensions like smile, joyfulness, cheerfulness, they are in close proximity. That represents they group out the, just by looking into the faces, they group out the similar objects under the happiness. So by summarizing the overall utility of multidimensional scaling, it provides the graphical visual representation of the data in the multidimensional space and in user chosen of number of the dimensions, and it helps to measure how well or badly the solution distances match the data dissimilarity. That is, provides the dissimilarity matrix with the help of stress, and it is exploratory data analysis. That is, from high dimensional space to low dimensional space, we can reduce the number of dimensions without affecting the information which are present in the high dimensional space. Next is to discover the mental representation of the stimuli and psychological dimensions with the help of the perceptual mapping. And there is multidimensional representation resulting from multidimensional scaling can be used to develop various mathematical models. And finally, it will deal comfortably with the ordinal level of data. But the problem here is, if we increase the number of dimensions, the stress will also increase. So if the stress increases, there will be a problem of relative ignorance. These are some of the implementing softwares we use for multidimensional scaling: Orange, PCOD, MATLAB, R programming, sklearn, Vista, and SPSS. In SPSS, by bringing the similarity or dissimilarity matrix into the data view, we have to go to analyze, and in that analyze, we have to select the scale. In the scaling, we have the options, that is preference scale, proximity scale, and individual difference scale. If we select the proximity scale, then again it will ask for data format, whether the data are in already proximities or we have to create the proximities. But the data, the similarity data, it is already in proximity. So we have to select the data proximities. Then what number of matrices we are used to evaluate? Here, one matrix source. Then again, we have to transfer here in proximities, we have to transfer which of the objects we need to compare. Again, we have to select the scale, that is whether it is interval or ordinal according to our data. Then here we have to select the dimensions. For selecting the dimensions, we can also use the stress. That is, it will plot the how many number of dimensions we can take. And the result will be like this. In the common space, it will give the comparison between the different stimuli or different objects. If we select one dimension, the problem is like this. It is very difficult to compare the different stimuli. So these are some of the decisions we have to take prior to applying the multidimensional scaling. In the data collection stage itself, we have to be careful whether we are collecting the data for similarity or dissimilarity. Then again, we are collecting the actual numerical values or just we are collecting the ranking data. Then Euclidean distance. It is used for the analysis to give visual representation of the data. Then amount of stress. It can be detected by the screen plot technique. By plotting the stress, dimensions against the stress, it will give the actual number of dimensions. Then type of multidimensional scaling analysis to be performed, whether individual analysis, aggregate or individual difference scaling. Individual analysis, it will be most appropriate for dealing with the data of each respondent. Aggregate analysis, it is for the aggregate. That is, we call it as perceptual space of the aggregates. And individual difference scaling, it is to provide the stimuli and both individual differences in a same multidimensional space. And so we have to select the appropriate software. Coming to the applications in extension, I have quoted some examples. From that, we can take what are the applications the multidimensional scaling having extension. One is perceptual mapping, and for measuring the attitude and perception of decline, diffusion of innovation by positioning innovation, that is positioning strategy, like what they use in the marketing. We can use here also for understanding the preferences of client for various technology by preference data, semantic differential, understanding the individual differences, segmentation of client category, and targeting and tailoring strategy formulation. These three can be done with the help of the individual difference scaling. And discovering the underlying facts of personality and behavior. With the help of the perceptual mapping, we can identify the behavior. This is the research study, that is construction of multidimensional scale for measuring perception towards the migration by Sukanya Soul. First, she selected 100 statements. By item analysis, those statements were reduced to 50. Then for 50 statements, she collected the data from 300 respondents. Then the data is subjected to factor analysis with the help of the principal component analysis method. This principal component analysis, it provides the what are the major components, how many major components we have to take. It takes 10 components has to be selected. Then again, regressing the statements into the component. For 10 components, what are the different statements we have to regress? That can be known by which of the statements has higher beta values for the particular component. It will distribute under that particular component. Then it is tested for reliability, and reliability quotient has been found 0.81. Then the scale is accurate. So I conclude my seminar by looking into all these examples. It has various uses in our field of research. That is, most of our variables are multidimensional, and it can comfortably deal with the ordinal data. It can be deal with the using appropriate number of softwares. Many number of softwares are available for multidimensional scaling, and it will help to find the underlying dimensions, and it is based on the subjective evaluation of the respondents. Thank you.
So it's open for discussion. Queries from the participants and then
Preference and similarity data. In case of similarity data, just we ask the respondents if we give two objects, for example, A and B. Just we ask them to give response the similarity. For example, if I give the scale 1 to 5, 1 means very similar, 5 means very dissimilar. Just they want to rank whether if they find it similar, then they will give 1 or 2. If they find more dissimilar, they will rank 5. This is similarity data. And preference data we obtain, that is by ranks. Which one is, we'll take it as first. For example, we ask to compare A and B. They have to rank one. They will give ranks for object A, they will give rank 1, and for object B, they will rank 2, like that.
please explain how statements are assigned under this dimension.
Statements under different dimensions or components. For example, by principal component analysis method, if we found 5 components, there are some 50 statements. For all these 50 statements, by the help of rotated component matrix, it will give some values, beta values it will give. This beta values it will give for all the 5 components. If the statements 1's value is higher for component 1, then it will go under this component. If the statements 2 beta value is highest for component 3, then it will distribute under component 3. Based on beta values obtained by the rotated component matrix from principal component analysis. It is a technique that matrix obtained by the principal component analysis.
How you will apply that?
What?
How you will apply that rotated component matrix? You will obtain some 5 components in the principal component.
Okay.
How you will apply that
rotated component matrix, it will give beta values also. Then it will regress the statements under the particular component. It will automatically give. Just I am explaining how it will take. They will give the rotated component matrix for the particular components. It will already distributed. Just I am explaining how it will take based on the beta values, whichever highest is per their particular component.
Multidimensional scaling, up to what level the stress is allowed?
Here, practically speaking, they will allow for up to 20%, but for perfect, it should be 1%. We call it as, if the stress is 20%, then we call it as a very poor. If the stress is 10%, we call it as fair. At least we need less than 10% of the stress is allowed. In some conditions, it will be up to 20%.
In our agriculture condition, if we measure the medical situation what's happening in agriculture,
That will be based on the depends on the dimensions also. How many number of dimensions you are plotting against the stress, and that will decide the percentage of stress.
said that for starting one example, you could like social participation in inclusion, social progressive skills, like starting an example. It's not, it's all the variables will contribute like equal percentage to the dimension. Like, can we know that percentage contribution of these dimensions? Like percentage contribution of these dimensions to entire.
That's what I said. It will give the beta values. For example, the statements they will regress under the particular component. Then by looking at this, for example, 5 statements were come under the component 1 or measure dimension 1. By looking into these subdimensions or these statements, we have to give the name for that particular measure dimension.
She is asking to what extent, to what percent that will comes under that.
Means, for example, 1, 2, 3. These are the measure dimension. If the statements 1 value, that beta value, based on the beta value, if the beta value is highest for first component, then it will go under that. Not percentage here, based on the values that obtained through the rotated component matrix.
Can you explain with example what are the dimensions can be included under leadership? What are
Yes, sir.
what dimensions are important? What are the dimensions you can include in the leadership?
Sir, this is
I just forget other. The dimensions you can include. You assume that you are the researcher, you are going to village.
yes, sir.
What are the dimensions you consider?
So information seeking behavior, decision making ability,
Most appropriate one.
for leadership,
Yeah.
credibility.
What are other dimensions to say he is a leader? In the class group and leader and the consider
Initiation, to take initiation, decision making.
Group organizer. Group organizer.
Organizing those groups.
If you take that one concept, if you take that concept and there are the dimensions, and the examples what is there, these are dimensions to measure the
Yes.
ಆ ತರದ್ದು ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು ನೀವು ಯಾವುದೋ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ Is there any study in our department using this multidimensional? You have mentioned improve. Whether you presented multi. Have you presented?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This one. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದು study ಇಲ್ಲ.
Sir, ಈ ಮೆಥಡ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು
ಯಾರು ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. Whatever the scales used, whether they are multidimensional or unidimensional.
In our department.
Yeah.
Sir, here actually we take it as unidimensional because if you take to measure the perception, like I will consider the perception of the respondents towards the site testing recommendations. I will take this variable as to deal with that particular situation. So the dimension is, but the variable that we take is multi-dimensional only, sir.
Okay. If for leadership, which are all the dimensions? Multi-dimensions.
So for leadership, we can take many number of dimensions.
Tell me, which are all the dimensions?
So decision making ability,
They are studied
information seeking behavior.
Data they are studied now. Which are all the dimensions? They are okay.
So innovativeness, mass media exposure, power orientation, achievement motivation, socioeconomic status, decision making ability.
Basically, we want to encourage how to differentiate the dimension and components. Anytime in the scale development, we say that it is a component of a major variable. As a construct, within the construct, we say that these are the sub-components. So here you are seeing multi-dimension. Okay. In the area case, we are making it unit direction. That means a particular construct present or not by pulling together all the component values. We arrive at somebody based upon the categorization, we classify low, medium, or high, or whatever. But here you are saying dimensions. So what advantage you are having by that, and how the quality of the interpretation increases with this?
So measure will eliminate the overlapping effect of the dimensions. For example, if we take any variable, there will be many number of subdimensions. But here we take it as they are not overlapping for one another. If we employ this method, it will remove that problem of multicollinearity.
Cells are having always overlapping components.
No,
There
sir.
also we separate, segregate the questions, and we remove all the is finding another.
We can do that.
Diagrammatically, we are removing it. No, there is no overlapping, there is no repetition. All this thing we do in the scale.
But this method is much accurate. That I have given one example. When that measured using the unidimensional scale, only 50% of the change has been explained. By using the multidimensional scale developed by using this method, 60% of the change has been explained. So that leads to the overlapping effect. That 10% I have implied.
Crisis management, how many components are there? 38 situations, crisis situations. Yeah, identify components. Whether you consider they are dimensions or components. As management report, is there any difference between components and dimensions?
Which one will you recommend? Right now he is developing it. What is the advantage if he goes for a multi-dimensional? Because most of the things we are so far we are developing using the Likert scale of the standard procedures. So now we are presenting this. Would you recommend for Mustafa to go for a multi-dimensional scale analysis? And if that is the case, what best, how best the results will be superior than the method right now he is going on?
Sir, in his research, he has identified the components. Like on what basis he identified? Based on some reviews. So based on some
more sub-components. Main components, decision making ability. Second one, adaptability. Third one, economic performance. Decision making ability, rating system. Adaptability and situations. Production, draw to price, financial. Three components: decision making, adaptability, and economic performance. Whether they are components or dimensions. Is there any difference between dimensions and components?
in some research they quoted as dimensions also. Sir, in some papers they quoted that as a dimensions, and in some research they quoted as components.
Which one is correct? How to define better? Because dimension is equal depending on the actual multi-dimension.
ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಮಾಡಿರೋರು ಯಾರು ಡೈಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಮಲ್ಟಿ
ಸರ್ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಇವರು ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಿದಾರಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ನಾನು yes sir for example our based on some review of literature you identify those components but here
review of literature ಮಾಡಿರೋದು
sir but first our components na first select ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು sir
ಅಲ್ಲ ಅವರು ರಿವ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡೋದು
sir review ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ but first they will take the statements based on the statements by doing principal component analysis then they will identify the components on what components this sir based on review of literature only but they won't give that component name for those statements.
That means to say that they develop a statement first and then finalize
Then finalize the components on what components these statements will
From the
distribute.
statement, they come to the dimensions.
Yes, sir.
Here we finalize the component, then we develop the statement. Vice versa. Is that true? Better we can
Sir, for
give the clarity between the dimension and this. So for example, my question is, so for example, in component case, we are having different components and we are adding up the values. Maybe the proportion may vary. For a component one will give 30% of total value, another component will give 50% of the value, third component will get just 20% of the value. So altogether we will be working with 100 or the total value based upon that. So the dimension is that it is each dimension will be different from deviant from exclusive from other one. So that means it will be like a scalar. From single points, origin may be same, but direction may be different directions. Is it not? So then, how do you pull up the value and ultimately say that it is representing the particular construct or leadership in that case? Because it is it's indicating different directions.
yes.
In one axis it would have gone up to 10, another axis it would have gone for 5. Okay. So multiple directions the values would have been deployed. We plot the values. Ultimately, how it will be added in that particular construct is.
Sir, you are telling that is the application part of this technique, sir. But by developing the scale, they will use the rotated component matrix. That will be more accurate while compared to first developing the components.
You are saying that accuracy, how that accuracy is arrived at. So when you say that it is more accurate, for example, gold, it is 24 karat or 22 karat. So they will be explained that by this process we are adding 2% or 2 proportion of the copper. Okay, to remove that, say we say that these are advantages or limitations. Your device it will be 916 watt and this is 1000 watt. And they will be telling that by doing this thing we are removing it. Or purification process of any element, they will say that these are the chemicals you are going to put by this thing. Dust material will be removed, only sugar may be retained by the purification process. So similarly here, which misguiding or misleading element is extracted compared to the scale
Yes,
development.
sir. Those statements were eliminated by looking into the communality values. Each of the values comes less than 0.6.
Multi-dimensional scaling ಅಥವಾ ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ನಾವೇನಾರ ಕಾಯ್ದು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾ ಮಲ್ಟಿ ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಕೇಲಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಏನಾರು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾ ಇದು ಎನಿ ವರ್ಡ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಮಲ್ಟಿ ಡೈಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಮಲ್ಟಿ ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ
ಬರಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಲೈಕ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಟೇಕ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಇಫ್ ವಿ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಲ್ಟಿ ಡೈಮೆನ್ಷನಲ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ಅಂತ
ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಸಮ್ ಪ್ರೂಫ್ Gowda ನಾವು ಇವತ್ತು ಮಾಡಿರೋದಲ್ಲ ಆಯ್ತಾ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ 20 years ಇಂದ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಸ್ಕೇಲ್ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕೆಲವು ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಯೂಸ್ ವರ್ಡ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಕೆಲವು ಡೈಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
Intelligence is used so far.
My question is there any difference between component and dimension?
So that also I'm also don't know, sir, but in some research they use dimensions.
ಈ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ನ ಕೊಡಲಿ ಮತ್ತು you have to discuss. ನೀವು ಇಷ್ಟ ಬಂದಿದ್ದ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೊಡೋದು you have to discuss with your teacher, seminar teacher.
Sir, in some research they quoted that as a dimensions. In some research they quoted as a components.
That's what I am telling. You just clarify me whether it is different or same. ಅದನ್ನ ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಬೇರೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ಪ್ರಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳಿದೆ, somewhere you have mentioned preference. How to assess preference of farmers about pesticide or about any maybe ragi or anything. What are the dimensions?
Sir, in the method, for example, we gave some five varieties for pairwise comparison. Based on that, we can get a preference scale.
What are the components, dimensions? Then ನಿಮಗೆ ಏನು ತಪ್ಪಾಗಿ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಊರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ದು ಡಾಬರ್ ಹಾಕ್ಲೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಯಾವ್ದೋ ಲೋಕಲ್ ಈ ರೋಡ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ 3 ಕೊಟ್ಟು ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೇಳಿ which one is you prefer ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ.
Sir,
what are the criteria you follow?
Sir, multi-dimensional scaling ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಕ್ರೈಟೀರಿಯಾ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಡೈಮೆನ್ಷನ್
ಮಲ್ಟಿ ಡೈಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಈಚ್ ಬಾ
ಹಾ ಸರ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ನಾವು ಅವರಿಗೆ
3 ಜೇನುತುಪ್ಪ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಪ್ಪ, ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾನು ಬರ್ದಿರಲ್ಲ ಇದು ಡಾಬರ್ ಆಮ್ಲ ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವ್ದೋ ಒಂದು ಇದು ಅಥವಾ ಲೋಕಲ್ ರೋಡಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರಲ್ಲ, 5 ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈಗ ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ ತಿಂದು ಟೇಸ್ಟ್ ಇದು ಮಾಡಿ ಇನ್ನ ಕೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು ವಿಚ್ ಒನ್ ಯು ಪ್ರಿಫರ್ ಅಂತ. ವಿಚಾರ ಕ್ರೈಟೀರಿಯಾ ಫಾಲೋ.
ಸರ್ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ನಮ್ಮ GKVK ಮಾಡೋದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಸಿಗೋದು ಎರಡನ್ನೂ ರೆಸ್ಪಾಂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಅವರು ಹಾ ಸರ್ ನನಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ರ ಅವಾಗ ನಾನು ಹೇಗೆ ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇದಕ್ಕೂ ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಡಿಸಿಮಿಲಾರಿಟಿ ಆ ಸಿಮಿಲಾರಿಟಿ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾನು ರ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ 1 to 5 ನಾನು ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಸರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪರ್ಸೆಪ್ಷನ್ ಬರಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದಟ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ ಇದೆಯೋ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಸರ್ ಸರ್ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು ಸರ್, ಟೇಸ್ಟ್ ಹೇಗಿದೆ ಮತ್ತೆ
ಕೇಳೋ ಜನರಲ್ ಅಪಿಯರೆನ್ಸ್ ನೋಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಜೇನುತುಪ್ಪ ಬಹಳ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಹೊಡಿತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಈ ಬೆಲ್ಲ ಹಂಗೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಬೆಲ್ಲನ ನೀನು ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ ಹಾಕಿರೋ ಬೆಲ್ಲ ಬಹಳ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಹೊಡಿತದೆ ಆಯ್ತಾ, ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದೇ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ಕನ್ನಡ
ಅಪಿಯರೆನ್ಸ್
ವಿಚಾರ ಅದರ್ ಇಂಡಿಕೇಟರ್
ಟೇಸ್ಟ್
ಆಮೇಲೆ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಏನಾರ ಸಕ್ಕರೆ ಪಾಕ ಇದೆಯೋ ಅಂತ ನೋಡ್ತಾನೆ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ. Then they prefer, they give preference. Yes, government first or agriculture department product, they give preference. ಆ ತರ ಮಾಡೋದು. ನೀನು ಆ ತರ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬರೋದು. ನೀನ್ ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಲ್ಲ.
ಸರ್ ಒಂದು ಫೇಶಿಯಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಷನ್ಸ್ ಏನಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಜಸ್ಟ್
ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಂದೇ ತರ ಇದೆ. ಫೇಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಂದೇ ತರ ಇದೆ.
Sir, in this, based on the curvature of lips and curvature of eyes, they will differentiate. For this one and this one, is there any similar or is there similarities or any dissimilarities? Sir, based on curvature of the lips and curvature of the eyes.
ಈಗ ನಿನ್ನ ಆಡಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಮುಖ ಎಲ್ಲ ನೋಡು ಯಾವ ತರ ಇದೆ ಈಗ ಹೆಂಗಿದೆ ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ಮುಖ
ಸ್ಮೈಲ್.
ಈಗ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ನೀವು ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದ? ಡಲ್ ಫೇಸ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ, ವುಡನ್ ಫೇಸ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ, ಏನೇನಾಗ್ತದೆ? ಡಲ್ ಫೇಸ್ ವುಡನ್ ಫೇಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಪ್ಪ? ಸೈಕಾಲಜಿ. You have studied psychology in IRI. You are so strong in psychology. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸೈಕಾಲಜಿ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಇದಾರೆ. ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಡಲ್ ಫೇಸ್ ಆರ್ ವುಡನ್ ಫೇಸ್? ಇವರೆಲ್ಲರೂ ವುಡನ್ ಫೇಸ್ ಇದ್ರು. ರಕ್ತ ಏನ್ ಗೊತ್ತಾ? ನಾಟ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಅಂತ. ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಇದು ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಪ್ರಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಜೇನುತುಪ್ಪ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಯಾವ್ದಾರ ಆಗೋದು. ಉಪ್ಪಿನಕಾಯಿ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ಹೆಂಗಿರ್ತದೆ? ಮುಖ ಹೆಂಗಿರ್ತದೆ ಉಪ್ಪಿನಕಾಯಿ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ? ಫೇಶಿಯಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಷನ್ ಹೆಂಗಿರ್ತದಪ್ಪ? ನಗ್ತಾರ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅಗೇನ್ ಸಿಮಿಲಾರಿಟೀಸ್ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ? ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಜರ್ನಲ್ ಅಡಿಕೆ ಪತ್ರಿಕೆ ಕಂಪೇರ್.
Sir, similar ಅಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಅದು simulated the data.
Yes, sir. About Indian journal and ಅಡಿಕೆ ಪತ್ರಿಕೆ. You cannot compare those two. Indian journal, there is a research article related journal. ಅಡಿಕೆ ಪತ್ರಿಕೆ is mostly popular articles for the farmers, for the benefit of farmers. Entirely the purpose is different. You cannot compare Indian journal, research journal with the Adike Patriska or any magazines.
ಸರ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಸೈಮುಲೇಷನ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಸರ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸೇಮ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಸೈಮುಲೇಷನ್ ಯಾವ ತರ ಅದನ್ನ ಎವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ.
ಒಂದೇ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ
ಸರ್. ಅದು
ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಅಂತ ನನ್ನೇ
ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಆತರ ನೀವು ಕಂಪ್ಯಾರಿಸನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ದೇ ಶುಡ್ ಫೈಂಡ್ ಎ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಇನ್ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ಸ್, ನಾಟ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ಅಡ್ಜಸೆಂಟ್. ಅಡ್ಜಸೆಂಟ್ ಬರಲ್ಲ. ಕೆಲವು ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ದೇ ವಿಲ್ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ದ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್. ಆಲ್ ಆರ್ ಫಾಸ್ಟ್ ಮೂವಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ ಗುಡ್ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವ ಶೇರ್ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಅನಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ದೇ ವಿಲ್ ಸೇ ದಟ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕಡೆ ಕನ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಿ ಆಫ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ಪ್ಲಾಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಆಂಗಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿವಿಡೆಂಡ್ ಈಲ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲಾಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪಲ್ ಆಂಗಲ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪಲ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವಾಗ ದೇ ವಿಲ್ either ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಆಕ್ಸಿಸ್ ಯಾವ ಆಕ್ಸಿಸ್ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಅಂತ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾರೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸೈಜ್ ಆಫ್ ರೌಂಡ್ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಸೈಜ್ ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ರೀತಿ ದೇ ವಿಲ್ ಪ್ಲಾಟ್ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪಲ್ ಆಂಗಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಇನ್ ದೋಸ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ವಿಸಿಬಲ್ which company is in which parameter is bigger or closer to the origin. So like that it will be giving a clear picture. So our multi-dimensional comparison ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ. So similarly here also as sir told James Super ಒಂದು 5 ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಕಂಪಾರಿಸನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 5 ಡೈಮೆನ್ಷನ್ 5 ಆಕ್ಸಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ. So probably 3 ಆಕ್ಸಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. 3ನೇ ಆಕ್ಸಿಸ್ they will go for size of the circle something like that. ಆ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡೋದು ಬಿಯಾಂಡ್ 3 ತರ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ how to do that. So that question
for construction of this place, data were collected from field with randomly selected respondents. For constructing this cave?
Yes sir, for constructing this cave.
Who are the respondents?
Sir?
Who are the respondents? For constructing this cave, who are the respondents? 300. Randomly selected respondents are Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Maharashtra. Generally, in our department, for constructing this cave, we provide the
non-sampling
professionals, maybe extension or economics or discipline, particular discipline. Okay, here who are the respondents?
Sir, ಇದು 300
respondents of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Maharashtra. Whether they are farmers?
Yes sir, for they are major farmers. It is non-sampling area sir.
Non-sampling generally they will not cover 300.
Sir, this ಆ ಮೆಥಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಕೇಲ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರನೇ ಅಷ್ಟು ರೆಸ್ಪಾಂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಹತ್ರ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು ಸರ್.
Data exchange ಅಂತ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು. If they use 300 farmers
for scale construction.
How many farmers they include for collecting the data? Maybe 1000 or 2000.
ಸರ್ ಆ ಥರ ಏನಿಲ್ವಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಅಷ್ಟು ಜನದ ಹತ್ರ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಲೇಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್
What is the purpose of conducting the
madam was telling the donkey was to collect 300.
So maybe for accuracy they collected with 300 respondents.
Generally they restrict for 30 for testing purpose.
Why you are spending your energy, time for gathering information from the farmer? Something is wrong while providing information. I think just take it.
No sir, it is 300 respondents only sir.
Find out what is the rationale behind that huge number.
Sir.
Develop ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ 300 ಜನ ಇಂಟರ್ವ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
What's the reason behind that?
Mostly ಅವರು across the country ಒಂದು 5000 10000 ಜನ ಹತ್ರ ಡಾಟಾ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಇನ್ನೇನು 300 ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್ 250 ಫಾರ್ಮರ್ಸ್ ಹತ್ರ ನೀವು ಡಾಟಾ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು PhDಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಹತ್ರ ಸ್ಕೇಲ್ ನ ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ತೀಯಾ, ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀಯಾ? 30 ಅಲ್ವಾ? My question is 300 ಮಾಡೋದು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಕೇಲ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ಗೆ 300 ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದುಡ್ಡು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರ? ದುಡ್ಡು ಹೆಂಗ್ ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಂತ, ಅಥವಾ ಮೋರ್ ವ್ಯಾಲಿಡಿಟಿ 300 ಮಾಡಿ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಅದು ಒಂದು 10,000 ಜನ ಹತ್ರ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಓಕೆ,
Since time has run out, we will have a seminar tomorrow, brother. We will continue tomorrow. But consider about the regional one.
ನಿಮಗೆ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡಿಲ್ವಾ? ಇದು ಮಾಡಕ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಡ್ರಿ. ನೀನು ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ನಾನು ವಿತೌಟ್ ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವಿಂಗ್ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಇವಾಲೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಪ್ರೀತಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಲ್ಲ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್.
Hello, Namaskar sir. Gowda sir, are you there?
ಹಲೋ
ಸರ್ ಸಾರಿ, ಅದೇ ಇವತ್ತು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಡಿಲೇ ಆಗೋಯ್ತು ಸರ್. ಸಂಕೇತ್ ಇದು ಇದಿತ್ತು ವೈವಾ. ಹಲೋ, ನಾನು ಗಣೇಶ್ ಮೂರ್ತಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಸರ್. ಹಲೋ,
ಹಲೋ, ನಾಳೆ ಟುಮಾರೋ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತೀರಾ?
ನಾಳೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಸರ್, ನಾಳೆ 9:30ಗೆ ಸರ್.
ಹಾ ಸರಿ ಸರಿ, ನಾಳೆ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಆಗ್ತೀನಿ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
ಓಕೆ ಓಕೆ.